as if they didn't know Bluetooth existed.
What's Bluetooth?
Exactly. You are the perfect trucker.
Your face is Bluetooth. That's what we're doing, right?
Is it? Does it have a MAC address?
It has a 6-foot range. That's what's got.
I don't care for Mac.
I don't know if it'll show it. It even has like little like infrared LEDs. They were lit up. It's fine.
Well,
it's fine. This is fine.
We're live on the YouTube we're live on the YouTubes too, but we're live on the Twitches, the Twatches.
Okay. Who's hosting?
That's what I asked.
Oh, I wasn't paying attention. I was getting everything ready.
And no one is surprised.
I'll host. But then next week you guys got to host.
Next week I'm washing my hair, so.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm organizing my sock drawer.
Well,
busy. Hello.
Hey, Senstress. Okay.
Uncomfortable silence.
Yeah, I'm thinking.
I'll
it's always the last thing
UFO.
I think of. 50?
50?
When one anal probe is just not good enough, there's UFO 50. Today on...
Don't probe me over the intro.
It's always clever when it's on the spot like that.
That's true. That's where our best material comes from when we don't plan ahead, right? Welcome everybody to another episode of Press Me to Cancel, where Jake's headphones are going to drive him freaking nuts the entire episode because they won't sit where they're supposed to. I am Sick Jake, your host this week, and I'm not alone. No, I am joined by three good friends to discuss what is probably one of my favorite games of the year. Chard, how you doing this week?
I'm good. This was a sleeper. I'm glad that you convinced me to buy it over MPs, like you always do with all the games that I have, except for Wukong, which is going to be a running joke for the rest of this year.
Yeah, I mean, you play one Souls-like, you played them all. You don't need Wukong. No, it's not like that's like critically acclaimed or anything. Not like this game. Wolf, speaking of critically acclaimed, how you doing this week?
I'm doing all right. I've only played about half of these, but Action 52 who?
Exactly. Yeah, this is very much Action 52 inspired, but good. And also joined by Sinistar. How you doing this week, Sinistar?
I'm great.
Okay. So you have not played this week's game, so we're going to try and talk you into buying it or playing it. And of course, we're talking about UFO 50, which comes from Mossmouth. For those who don't recognize that name, it's the studio founded by Derek Yu. And if you don't know that name, shame on you, because he's the guy who made Splunky. And essentially what he did is 8 years ago now, he had the idea with a friend of his, an indie game dev friend of his, that they want to kind of go back to what it felt like to do game jams, right? Those 48-hour or 7-day indie game competitions where you just take what you can get and make a quick prototype of a game. He wanted to kind of go back to that feeling and make those kind of games, but he wanted to make a more polished version of it. But he wanted to do it with his friends, so he got a number of other indie developers. I want to say it's 6 folks together. And the idea was they were each going to collaboratively work on various games and a compilation. I don't think they expected it to take 8 years. I mean, of course, they were busy. Derek Yu also did Splunky 2 over the last few years. But eventually, they managed to get 50 games together. They kind of loosely tied it together in a compilation. I believe they made a fictional retro-inspired console. They gave it a history. They gave it, fake developers and lore. And they basically released UFO 50, which is, like you said, Chart, a sleeper. This is a game that I had heard about a couple years ago. I think it was Summer Games Fest. They talked about it or had a trailer, but I completely forgot about it. And then when it came out this week and I saw footage of it, I knew I had to play it. And when I saw the price of $25, it was hard to turn down. So I put just under 20 hours just this week into this game. I have stuff to play, but I played this instead. So how much time have you guys spent on UFO 50 this week? I don't think nearly that much, but Chard, how about you?
I think I am looking at 6 hours. I bought it Monday or Tuesday this week. I don't
Okay.
remember. We were talking about it on MPs while I was in between work, and I told the wife, I have homework to do, and I'm going to pick up this $25 game for this week's episode because I wanted to be a part of it and wanted to know what the hell I was talking about. And I had seen local Twitch streamer and fan of Press B to Cancel, Mr. Murph, playing it as well. And
did he play this?
He's been playing a lot of it. I don't think I've watched him stream it, but I've seen him on my Discord.
Thought he
playing
was
it himself.
doing. Anyway, it's fine. I thought he was doing another game.
And Retrograde Tom has been playing this, and a bunch of people. There's a bunch of pretty solid retro streamer friends that have been playing this a lot. And Jake doing his normal, this could be game of the year, guys, kind of talk. Always. And Jake and I share a brain when it comes to FOMO. So when Jake starts hyping something up, I typically get a little excited about it. So I bought it, and I got to say, the first 3 games that I fired up in that, and even Jake was like, I don't know if you'll like it. Just to be honest, you may not like it, but you may love it. So it's one of those, like, you'll either hate it or love it kind of things.
You're really selling me on it.
Well, hold on.
Game of the year.
We'll get there.
But you're not going to like it, but it could be game of the year.
Yes. Which is your typical Jake discussion about these things.
So it's balloon fight.
I played like, well, yeah, kind of has that feel. I love the graphics because it's retro inspired, heavily retro inspired. And some of the games, like, you start out, you're like, what in the hell am I playing? And then, as I was saying, and we'll talk about the game later, I'm on, day 3 of playing this before I go to bed. And I stumbled upon a game that I was like, this seems kind of weak. And I played it for 2.5 hours and was like, oh, I really like this. This is actually really cool. It kind of speaks to me. And
so it's Ice Climber.
I think. No, because you hate every ice level. There's no fucking game in this game so far. There's been a few that have been like, all right, I'm spinning right off of this thing. But then there's 49 more to go. So it's not like there's any lacking. They hit every chord that they can with RPGs, dungeon crawlers, all kinds of stuff.
I have my first question. So it is 50 games in a list when you start it.
Yes. So I'm going to bring up the screen.
Well,
I'm sure Jake
the reason I ask is because I've gotten some little spoilers through MP, and I know that there's some unlockables.
Yeah, so that's all games.
Yeah,
that's all the games.
It's pick from all 50 of them outright.
Okay, so it's 50 from the beginning.
Yeah, there's no unlockables. Well, that I know of. You can play either the first game or the 50th game, and anything in between.
Okay.
There's
and
nothing
you can
to play anything.
Shuffle the order if you want to, make it chaotic. You can make it random, chronological. There's a fake chronological
there's a
timeline.
Fake chronological order that they're released in, and that's the base state that it shows them to you in. I go with alphabetical so that I can keep track of what was where, but I think there was another organizational option in there as well. I can't recall.
You can do by game type, length, genre. There's a few different options to kind of shuffle it up. But you know what this is like? I'll tell you right now. When I was a kid, you guys might have been similar. You always had that one friend, or maybe you had one. It was the multi-carts for the NES, those 52-1s or the 101s. And I remember playing those at a friend's place, and you're just flipping through the menu. All the games are available to you. Some are good, some are bad, some are clearly pirated copies of other games. I mean, the first one I played, Adventure Island, Nuts and Milk, Adventure Island, all this kind of games. Super Mario Brothers 6, and then you load it up and it's Adventure Island, that kind of nonsense. But it's all available to you at the beginning. And that's what this is. It's a compilation of 50 games from a made-up system that all follow the same palette restrictions, color restrictions. Not as tight of a restriction on the music, but I believe they're aiming for the MSX computer style sound for everything where there is music. So they kind of had a collective style they're going for. There's a lot of overlap in some of the story and lore of some of the games, and we'll talk about later. And there's some shared graphical elements, but for the most part, it's 50 very unique games. So, Wolf, how many hours have you put into this one, just so I have a reference?
A little over 12.
Wow. Okay.
So
so I'm bringing up the rear. All right.
Yeah,
No,
well,
I'm
you
gonna
guys
get
were
the
talking
rear-ends.
about this. You guys decided on this topic on Monday, I believe it was.
Yeah, that sounds
And
right.
by Monday night, Chard
when I
was
bought
like, all right, I'm going to buy it. And he bought it. And I was like, I'm all in on doing this episode. I've seen videos of this. It looks super cool, but I don't plan on buying it right now because I've got some other stuff I'm trying to save my money for at the moment. And so by the time I woke up on Tuesday morning, I had a gift copy on Steam sitting on my email.
Yeah, that might have happened to me too.
Yeah.
And
So
I was like, all right, I'll jump in. And I found a number of games that I had a lot of fun with.
yeah, this
Okay.
is. I mean, so this is 50 games. It's only $25, and I'll tell you the
Yeah.
reason why I bought it real quick. Sinistar is that this is the same week that Plucky Squire comes out or came out, and I was actually kind of hyped to pick that game up. But when it released, it was like $40-something, and the reviews were pretty bad. I don't mind
That's
paying.
the game I
yeah.
saw Merv playing was Plucky Squire.
Plucky
That's the game
Squire.
I saw him.
Yeah, I have it on Fantasy Critic. I was really hyped for it, but then it's like the reviews weren't so great, and $40 is. I don't mind paying for an indie game. I love supporting indie games, but if the reviews aren't that great and it's only like an 8 to 10 hour game, $40 is kind of that just $10 too high.
I feel like indie games start at 15, and they have to build something to get beyond 20, right? They have to have something really special to get beyond 20.
Like Sea of Stars being like $40 perfectly makes sense to me.
Absolutely.
Right? Indie
It's
game,
something
but that was
It's
and
something
you get free
incredibly
downloads
special.
with that.
Yeah.
So,
So, but this one being $25, I figure even if I don't like it, I mean, there's got to be at least 1 or 2 games in this compilation I'll like for $25. So I figured it's worth it. Turns out I like most of them, but go figure. The one that actually it's good to have you here, Sinistar, because you have a Mister like I do.
Yes.
And for anybody who's listening or watching, if you've tried playing retro games in the last 10 years, you more than likely grabbed a complete zip file or archive of every Nintendo game or every Master System game or whatever, and just sat at a screen full of ROMs in front of you and were randomly picking out games.
Yes.
And it's like you give each game like maybe 30 seconds to sell you. And if you're like me and you're playing Nuts and Milk, right? You're like, what the hell is this? And you kind of skip through the ROM library.
Or even worse, some like skinned Mario Brothers where it's all Nazi.
oh, wow.
Right?
Oh, the ROM hacks. Yeah, there's a few of those. ROM hacking has been wild for a while.
Yeah.
Some messed up stuff. But it's just the idea that today in 2024, we have the ability to kind of go through an entire system's back catalog and cherry pick games. This feels like somebody's done that, but they've taken only the bangers from the system. So how do we want to do this? Do you guys want to pick a favorite game? We'll just kind of talk about them because we can't talk about all 50.
So what you're saying is
there's
there's no Circus Charlie on here, thankfully.
So you know what? Okay, I'm going to tell you why I like Circus Charlie. For the year that it came out, early NES era. Yes, we do. Shut up. You're going to give me Circus Charlie for 30 seconds because you're not going to give me 30 minutes of a Circus Charlie episode. I had to go somewhere else to talk about Superman NES. I'll have you know. So I'm going to talk about Circus Charlie for 30 seconds. This game was great because it was an early NES game that had multiple screens and different kinds of gameplay on each screen, which was pretty rare for the year that it came out. And in this compilation, there's many games that have different kinds of gameplay, and it's in one game. And it's mind-blowing to me because of these 50 games, some are definitely longer than others, but even the short ones are still a few hours of gameplay in there, and that's like mind-blowing to me. Like there's just a lot of game here.
So kind of bottom end would be comparable to a Donkey Kong.
Yes, and like I'm trying to think of a game that's on this list that is as short as Donkey Kong is, and I think everything here is longer. Not necessarily as complicated, but there's definitely longer games here.
I think
so. Who wants to
I've only
pick
beaten
a game
one
first?
game sitting, and I didn't do very good at it because it was a sports game. But I finished it and then I got to start over and play it again. But that one was pretty easy to get through because it had its challenges, but you didn't really die playing it, so you didn't have to start over on anything.
What game was that? Do you remember?
Pin golf. That was pin golf.
Oh, you beat that one?
I was terrible at that one.
I like that one. See, the one
I got
that you
so
like,
frustrated with it.
your Golforia one that you like, Wolf, I am not good at that one, but I was good at pin golf because it was more standard.
So start with that one, Golfaria.
Yeah. Well, first off, let's mention pin golf. It's basically a 2D golf game that has some pinball elements to it.
That's awesome.
And so you choose the angle you want to swing it at, and you bounce through the arena, and you're trying to get in with par. So it's simple explanation.
Right.
Tough to figure out how the mechanics are going to work, at least for me. Golfaria, I nearly bounced off of, I will admit, because the first few times I played it, I was like, I want to like this, but I don't have enough strokes to get anywhere.
That was my problem.
Pissing me off, and I keep starting over. Because they start you with 20 strokes and 0 direction, which, I mean, it's pretending to be a 1985 game, so that makes sense.
Well, that's the thing.
Golfaria has a very Marble Madness kind of feel to me, in a sense of the down, the down play.
You think so?
Somebody else said that to me too.
Because it's got the platforms you got to go through and all that shit. Like it's like I said, there's a lot of games on here that have a lot of homage to other games that you don't think about until you play it. You're like, holy shit, this is Qbert or something. Like it's something that is clearly like their version of what the games we went playing. And this one, another one that Wolf will talk about, reminded us of Bubble Bobble. There's a lot that's in there's a Master Blaster like clone in here that I played for a little bit that unfortunately Wolf didn't like, but it's there's a lot of cool clones of their spin on the game that I really appreciated.
A lot of them feel like, let's take one idea and rub some funk on it,
Yeah. Add our spin to it or whatever.
And so sometimes that is mash up another 1 or 2 games into it to come up with something unique. And sometimes it's just like a slightly different take on it. And so it's virtually the same game, but a couple of the mechanics are tweaked just enough to where it's a different experience, even though it's still kicking that nostalgia wheel in the back of your brain.
Right.
Yeah. So to get back to Golfaria for a second, I'm going to take the video down because I'm terrible at this one, and I bounced, pun intended, off of this game real damn hard. I know, Wolf, you said there's unlockable strokes so that you can play longer. Because the thing with this game and a lot of the games in this compilation, they are pretty hard. They're like NES hard inspired, right, to a degree. Some are easier than others, but this one particularly, there's dungeons or something. I know there's caves. I've made it as far as a cave, but are there actual dungeons?
Yeah, I guess you could say that some of them are dungeons. There was one that felt particularly like a dungeon to me. Most of it just felt like caves. And then there's actually, believe it or not, there's a final boss.
Okay.
Oh,
that's interesting.
And so at the end of the game, I had 71 strokes available.
Oh, wow.
Damn,
okay.
So when you find there's little golf clubs that you can find in the caves and around the world, and each of those gives you an additional 3 strokes. And then there's checkpoints hidden throughout the world that you can find in the caves, and so that will now be your new spawn point, and whenever you hit those checkpoints, it resets your stroke count.
Okay. That makes things a little bit easier to swallow.
It takes a little work to get the hang of moving around and finding where you need to go. The more strokes you have, the less likely you are to run out. You also can find like hidden birds. So like sometimes you'll go through the bushes and hit a birdie, and that gives you 5 extra strokes. It recovers 5 hit points basically. There's eagles hanging around. If you hit an eagle, you get 10 extra strokes.
Right.
So I'm hearing that this is an RPG like American Truck Simulator.
But you're a golf ball.
This actually very much is like a golf RPG.
Yeah.
And as you're going through the game, and this is as spoiler as I'm going to get with this, but the game doesn't really have a story. But you see repeatedly throughout the game when you run into NPCs and stuff, because there are other golf balls around the world that you can bump into and that have something to say. And you'll see like every once in a while, they refer to you as a golf, G period, O period, L period, F period.
Okay.
And late game, you discover that stands for Guardians of Guardians of Life in Fairway. So the world you're playing in is called Fairway.
Jesus. Okay.
I mean, it's better than SCAT on the NES as an acronym, right?
SCAT
There's
is,
always worse acronyms.
I'm kind of
But you actually get abilities to break through blocks, jump, like actually go through sand instead of just having to like chip it out. And then you can even jump while you're rolling on sand when you get that same ability.
Okay.
There was another one, I can't recall what it was. And then there's one more that lets you roll on water. So as long as you don't fall in the water, you won't sink and splash in. If you roll onto the water, you'll be able to float and stay there and continue on.
Okay.
So you get abilities. It's sort of like I guess it's like Zelda meets golf, right? Because you're getting new abilities and traversing the world and sort of as action RPG as a golf game can get, right?
Yeah, golfania.
Yeah.
So I mean, the only game I can think of that comes close to this as like an inspiration maybe was Pinball Quest for the NES. If you guys ever played that one, where it's an RPG but it's a pinball machine in a series of stages where you're batting around the ball hero. That's the closest I can think of as trying to describe this, but it's golf. Sinistar, is there anything that you've played on PC that comes close to something like this? I'm trying to think of something else in a different system that comes close.
Well, usually, and I don't want to step on Sinistar here, but usually like the idea of a golf RPG is more like Golf Story that released some 7 years ago.
Yeah.
Mario RPG or Mario Golf for GBA, that sort of thing.
I'm trying to remember. There was an indie game a few years ago where basically it was an RPG and you started out and it was basically like 8-bit and you would get as you progress. That's the one. It kind of feels a little Evo Landy to me, because I mean, it's instead of like increasing the bit, like the 16-bit, 32-bit, whatever, it feels like you progress like an RPG. It sounds like
and you find so there's upgrades to traverse the world. You also have to find the 4 pieces of the Holy Tea to be able to get to where the final boss is.
Holy Tea was my high school nickname.
Some of the NPC golf balls that you find, when you find them, they're like, oh, okay, yeah, I'll come with you. So they disappear from their spot. And those are useful for the final boss. Because during the final boss, you start running low on strokes real quick because this boss fucking sucks. And every once in a while, when you're low, one of them will pop up and be like, hey, I'm here to help you. It's not much, but here's, 5 strokes or here's 15 strokes. And so I went through like all of those guys that I found. But does anybody want to guess what the final boss is?
No. I have no idea. I can't even think of one.
A caddy?
You're on a giant golf course. What sucks for golf courses?
Water trap.
A gopher. It's a gopher.
Yes, it's a gopher bot.
Okay. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
That's pretty good. So you must have beaten this one.
How does this compare to Lee Corvillo's putting challenge?
I beat this one.
Yeah. How long did this take one you to do then? Because it seems like a meaty game. How long was this one?
This one was probably a good 4 to 5 hours.
So that's like I think the theme for a lot of these games is when I first heard about this, I'm like, okay, 50 games, probably mini games, small bite-sized things like Balloon Fight or Joust or something. But you just described for the last 10 minutes Golfaria and it's 4 to 5 hours. Like that is a game. That could have been an indie game released for $2 on Steam, right?
This ain't a WarioWare.
Yes, exactly. No. That's pretty awesome.
I'm wondering if they tell you
have a lot of beef to them.
They do tell you how it's my most played game. So it took me 3.5 hours. Actually, you can see how long you spent playing a game, which is pretty cool. I didn't know that.
So for each game in the compilation, when you hit the X button, it comes up with a short description, a fake description, right? Like the one I played, Barbuda, it's like released in 1987 is the first game for the LX system, blah, 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 blah. Like it's like a fake timeline for these games. But then the next one gives you
by the way.
82. Okay, it's very early.
Barbuda was trash.
We'll get there. But the next tab gives you like your stats, the play time, sometimes how many deaths or how many things you've unlocked, that kind of thing. And then there's one that tells you the completion goal. And whenever you complete a game in the compilation, it turns gold. The cartridge turns gold. But then after you've beaten it, you get a cherry challenge. And it tells you what the cherry challenge is. Did you get that one for Golf Area? Do you know what it is?
I didn't know that was a thing. Hold on, I'm checking to see what this says.
So I have a question that just popped up while he's looking that up. Are these literally bite-sized games, or are there ways to save your progress and go back?
So it depends on the game. Some games do have save progress. There's a full-on JRPG in this compilation called Grimstone. It's I don't know if we'll talk about it much tonight because I've only played a little bit of it, but it's a Western JRPG in that it takes place in the Old West. It's about literally 15 Western. Hours long, literally a Western RPG. It's 15 hours long, and that has saving. There's a couple of ones that do have saving, but then there's also a lot of like arcadey ones where there's no saving, there's no continues. You got like maybe 2 lives, and that's it. So some of them are quite difficult, but then some are more forgiving.
Okay, so it looks like the cherry challenge is win with 100% completion, and I was only at 89, I think.
Tisk.
Sad.
Yeah.
But
so like it also I just noticed while we were at the beginning of this episode, there's also a garden.
You didn't see that yet?
No. What the hell is this garden? Because
is this spoiler?
I'm seeing under the garden thing, it says to give a house gift, I guess, obtain the blockbuster. And then it has a little check mark saying I did a thing, which I don't know what that means, but that's interesting. I also like that when you go into the details of the history of it, it tells you the month and year it came out.
I haven't even seen the garden yet. This is new. This is new to me.
You haven't seen the garden yet either? Okay, so when you load the game up for the first time, so here's when you first load the game up, it's good to explain the experience. You have a screen of 50 cartridges available to you. They're all dark. They're all covered in dust, which I like. And then there's a garden. And then the garden is basically a bare bones house with a little guy, nothing in it, a sapling of a tree. It's not fully grown, nothing. As you play the games, when you first play up the game for the first time, it blows the dust off it and loads the game up. And then when you beat it, it turns gold. And when you get the cherry challenge, it turns red. And yes, there's also a hidden garden goal in every single cartridge. And when you get that goal, it adds something to the house in the garden. I don't know what that does. I don't know if something happens when you get all 50 games beat 50 gifts. I'm assuming something happens because there are secrets in this game, which I won't talk about right now. But it's a neat little Tamagotchi style garden, and this guy will walk around your house and use the objects. Like once you get the bed, he sleeps in it. If there's a lamp or TV, he uses it. Kind of stuff like that. It's kind of cute, but it makes me wonder if it unlocks something or does something later. Kind of, yeah. So that's pretty neat. So the cherry challenge, I've only beaten one cherry challenge so far, and that was for Barbuda. Barbuda is like a I don't even know how to explain it. Like for anybody who's played
oh wait. I've heard Barbuda sucks.
No.
From a good source.
No, it does.
Right. So it doesn't. No, it doesn't. No, look, do you think I would get a game that sucks? A game that
Yes. Circus Charlie.
The game that started it all, developed secretly on company time by Peter fired, or almost got Peter Thorson fired. No, it doesn't suck. But this is what it looks like. There's the one thing I love about this game. So because in the fake history here, it takes place in 1982, so there's no music. And I died in the first 2 seconds.
Yeah.
I'm just watching the video.
Because you stepped on the trap, idiot.
It's so slow, the movement, and it's just like when I first tried this game, I'm like, this is trash. And I'm not saying the movement is good, guys, because you die so easily in this game.
Yeah,
you know what this reminds me of? This reminds me of Montezuma's Revenge.
Yes, that's a good one. And like that game, the more you play it, I died. The more you play it, the more you explore things, you kind of learn the layout of the levels, and you eventually, through many, many attempts, learn the map of the game, right?
So
and
it is
you learn how to
Montezuma's
beat it.
Revenge.
It feels very similar to that. In that this is also, though, I'm not going to say it's a Metroidvania, but there are items you can collect that make things easier. For example, there's acid drips that will obviously kill you. that bat's going to kill me. There's acid drips. If you find the umbrella, the acid drips no longer hurt you. There's a pin. If you equip the pin, then you can break the bubble blocks. There is candy, which does something. There's a wizard rod you can unlock, all that kind of stuff. But it's all like in a...
It's
yes,
like
it's not
Legacy of the
good.
Wizard.
It's trash, but it grows on you. Does that make sense? Like Montezuma's Revenge.
The same way like Montezuma's Revenge. I adore that game, but it's trash, and I'm trash at it.
Yeah, but this is very much like that. But at the very least, I know that, like, maybe because I beat it, I like it. Is that a thing?
Yeah, right.
Beat a lot of games I don't like.
I mean, winning a game or beating a game does carry some weight.
Yeah, I think that definitely helps. But it was neat in that when I was exploring the map, I had the urge to actually break out graph paper. I almost did that. I kind of wish I did. It's not a large map. It's maybe, I want to say 20 squares. Maybe a little bit more. But I ended up beating
that. It's like 10 by 10.
Is it? Okay. But it doesn't feel like it doesn't feel like Metroid's map, for example. Metroid's a much bigger game. It's not that big. In fact, you can beat this game in a couple hours if you know where to go.
It shows a grid at the bottom left, very a la Zelda world map kind of.
You can also beat Metroid in a couple hours if you know the map. So that's not a good example.
That's true. That's true too. Yeah. Okay. Fine.
I went through 3 game overs on this game trying to do anything.
Yep. Same.
I got a couple of treasure chests that seemingly just gave me nothing. I didn't see any extra items happen. I got no extra eggs, nothing. I was okay, so this treasure chest didn't do shit. That treasure chest didn't do shit. This other treasure chest, it didn't do anything either. Oh, big surprise.
Oh, look, so, another fucking empty chest. Wait.
No, they gave you money. You got money from those chests. There's no empty chests in this game.
Oh, where can I spend it?
Oh, UK.
At the title screen that kills you?
Yeah.
If you jump over the pressure plate, that the block doesn't fall on you, and it's fine. You get used to it. It's fine. There's a vendor. There's actually a few stores in the game. They're little jelly bean men, and you can buy items. The trick, though, I found out is you can go to the one and you can spend $100 or 100 gold coins and buy an umbrella. You can buy a pin. You can spend 25 and buy trash, which I hope does something, but I don't know. But you can also find every single item that are in stores hidden on the map somewhere. And that's the fun of the game. There's multiple ways to finish it. You don't need every item. You only really need like 2 items, and I don't want to spoil it. But if you want to like explore everything, get all the various items you can, but you only need 2. And the idea with the money though is, at the end of the game, near the end of and before the boss hits, you can spend the coins to gain extra lives. And that's the cherry challenge for that game, is if you beat the game with all your lives full, you get the cherry for it. And it's tricky because either you have to do it deathless, which is I think is impossible, or you do it with a few deaths and you buy back your lives at the end of the game. And I thought that was kind of interesting. And the boss was great.
Remind me, did you say that the cherry challenge does a thing?
Well, it turns the cart red, and I think you get a Steam achievement for it. So there's also like, I'm not gonna spoil it, but in UFO 50, there's a terminal screen. It kind of reminds me of a Game Shark, or if you're used to playing with emulators and the ROM hacking, like a cheat code finding, there's that screen of gibberish, the memory bank of gibberish. You can pull that terminal screen up anytime you want, and you should, at various points of the game, whether it's on the title screen, in a game, on the death screen, credits, because occasionally secret codes will pop up in that box. And I found a code in that box, and I'm not going to tell you what it is, but and maybe I'll spoil like a little barely hint of a story. Oh. I don't want to give it away because the Sensor hasn't played it, but I'll talk about the end of the episode. But you can get codes either. And it does, and those codes are hidden everywhere. Like when you beat a game, guys, you have to watch the credits because some of the credits will have those 2-word codes, and they do things in this game. Some are cheats, some are other stuff. It's pretty interesting. So I got my first code in Barbuda, and I thought that was wild. I was just like, I just beat it, or I was close to beating it, and I just paused for a second to look at the terminal and just see, and I saw a code sitting right there, and I'm like, what does this do? And I remember what it did. It took me away from the game, so I had to start over.
Well, okay.
Which was still cool. But anyway, yeah. Oh, I'm not spoiling anything. Don't worry about it.
That wasn't a spoiler.
I'm not going to tell you what the codes do. It was just neat that I found a code.
By him using the code, it kicked him out of the game. That's all he said.
Yeah, it was neat what it did, but I had to go back and start Barbuda over because Barbuda is one of those games that doesn't have a save system, fortunately. But again, once you've died and played through enough times, you find the route that works, and there's multiple routes, and there's a lot of hidden rooms and hidden secrets. It's a really interesting game.
I got to admit, like watching it and hearing you talk about it, it feels very Montezuma's Revenge to me. So it's almost that's a selling point for me.
Yeah.
So
there's a lot of that in this where you play something and you're like, holy shit, this reminds me of Metal Storm. Holy shit, this reminds me of this.
Oh yeah,
this
for
reminds
sure.
me of that. Like there's so many things that you'll be like, I fucking played this. Like when I played the Dungeon Crawler, Valbrand, I believe it's called, or Valbrain. I think it's Valbrand. It's a first person dungeon crawler, which I'm not a super big fan of. I'm not huge in it, but I know you like those types of games, Sinistar. Where you're walking and you got to turn, and then you'll see something off in the distance.
So it's like an Akalabeth or something, a Calabeth,
basically.
Okay.
And when you get to wherever the attack is, it turns into a hack and slash. Like you're still there, but your character can move left and right, and you attack. You actually press the button, and you'll slash your sword. So you can attack things while they're attacking you and dodging and stuff. So it adds like an extra level of action to it. And I was like, this is fucking cool. I like this. And you're looking for keys. You get attacked by mimics when you think they're treasure chests. I mean, there's like some really cool shit in this game. There's a lot to it. It's difficult. There is stamina. So, of course, I'm feeling very Soulsy. It's not anything related to Soulsborne, but the fact that you have to watch your stamina and watch this other stuff is really cool. The magic system in there is actually you have to do designs. Like one of the controllers, you have to paint something and it does a magic spell, but you don't know what it is until you cast it. I mean, there's some really fucking cool shit in this game, and I really enjoy. Again, it's the same kind of like retro-y style artwork, but it's smooth. It's got that smoothness to it when the character moves around. I think I got into like the second level of this particular game. I'm sure it's pretty lengthy. Yeah, this is a dungeon crawler.
This looks legit.
This is fun. This one I really and you were the first person I thought of when I started playing this. I was like, I think you'd really get into this.
All right, this looks legit. Yeah.
Yeah, this is dope. This is really cool.
The combat reminds me of Cross Swords in the Neo Geo or the arcades, for those who played that, where you have the behind the man view and it's very actiony combat, like Chart said. There's a way to block. Oh, there you go. And yeah, the spell system, I haven't gotten any spells yet in it, so I haven't seen what they look like. But I love the idea of the drawing of spells to cast things. I think it's pretty rad.
Yep. Yeah, this looks legit.
There's secrets all over the place.
This is pretty cool.
I like this one.
I had not tried this. I'm giving it a go right now.
Yeah. This one, I played this one last night. This was one of the other ones that I found myself that I should have been sleeping, instead playing this on my Steam Deck at 9:45 at night going.
And I have to call out. I have to call out that I love that, like the color palette, especially in that game, is like original Nintendo, where it's like a lot of brown and red, right? Like it's that
all the games are very similar in that color palette design. Like in
they
the
all
limited
use a
color
lot
palette.
it's very limited color palette. You see a lot of either like black backgrounds with limited color palettes or blue backgrounds, or it does feel very much like an
orange
NES game.
Yeah.
And
like the graphic style itself is got a similar tone. Like some of the games that are in their fiction that are earlier, like Barbuda, like the animation is not smooth on purpose, right? Like Barbuda has no music, like early games may not have had. Like Montezuma's Revenge, I think, had like an opening tune, and that's it.
That's
a similar feel there. And then later games, as you get further in their timeline, some of the later games have saving, they have wild graphics. It's still the same palette. Like late NES games have the same palette, but they look a lot better, and there's a lot more special effects. It's really interesting how they do it.
Brings up a point. Are there mimics in that game that can tongue punch your fart box?
There are mimics. I fought one.
It's all very true.
That makes
sense. All an accurate statement.
I also like that the little things that you were fighting, while not gelatinous cubes, were very gelatinous cube-esque, because gelatinous cube right there.
Yes.
Yeah. Like the please don't sue us cubes, because they're copyrighted. But they definitely take their inspiration from D&D. it's a neat hook. The idea of like a first-person dungeon crawler that actually has actiony combat, right? Because I think a lot of those first-person games were menu-based combat, or you had a party you had to try and manage. This one is very much just one hero, which is interesting. And that's the story with all these games. All 50 games have a pretty unique hook to them that works really well.
I do feel like I've seen a game that sort of plays like that from the sort of first person RPG where you control someone moving around, but I feel like it was an arcade game and so less RPG-ish.
Is that Cross Swords?
Let's
for the Neo Geo?
find out.
I'm willing to bet it's Cross Swords, which is one of my favorite arcade games. It's one of the reasons. It was one of the reasons I got the Mister is because of Neo Geo and that game specifically. I loved Cross Swords.
All right. Well, I'm gonna ask another question here. Since this kind of leads back into kind of the structure of the episode, what are your favorite games? It sounds like Chard really liked the RPG we just talked about.
Yeah, Valbrand's up there.
Valbrace is good. That's
Valbrace. Thank you, Valbrace. Do you want me just to name my other two that I like in here?
Let's start with your pick one, and then I'll pull it up and talk about it because
we talked about Valbrace, so that's definitely one on there.
You want me to pick another one? I guess.
Yeah, you go for it. I just picked.
Yeah, let's do round robin. Let's
go with Kick Club.
Kick Club.
Okay.
Yeah.
I assume we're talking a brawler. Talking a brawler now.
You assume incorrectly. Check this out.
Assume incorrectly. This game's cool.
Okay.
This was not at all what I was expecting.
Of shaking off the disc on this one, Jake. If you haven't touched this one yet.
Oh, I might have played
he's played all of them.
3 seconds.
Oh no, he hasn't. It's great.
No,
it's got webs.
I thought I saw it was grayed out. Yeah, I see it grayed out.
You haven't played this one?
No. There, dust is blown off. Let me see.
And it blows it off, and now it's good. Ready to play.
Okay. I got to
what is this game?
I got to stage 45 yesterday.
Okay.
45.
Yeah.
Oh, you'll see why.
It's soccer.
Oh.
It's soccer,
but wait.
It's
not just soccer.
It's Bubble Bobble.
It's Bubble Bobble.
It's legit Bubble Bobble.
It's so cool. It's just
really freaking cool.
Instead of blowing the bubbles, you're kicking.
How are you kicking it up like that?
I held up.
Up.
Oh.
It even travels.
I didn't know you could do that.
Stage. Oh my god!
The stages are left to right in this instead of up and down the
bottom to top or what? Yeah,
in a soccer ball, it transports you to the next area to use your soccer ball to take.
And you can fall through the floor to get up higher.
Yep, it is exactly like Bubble Bobble, and it's really really cool. You got to get used to it.
Okay.
You got kind of a very floaty character. But when the characters die, they turn into food, just like they do in Bubble Bobble.
Just like a Bubble Bobble. Yeah, I imagine
you don't have to go run and touch them, or else they come back. It looks like.
Yeah,
they would come back.
Yeah, you'd have to touch them. You had to touch them in this one.
But I would imagine in 2-player mode, you're still both sharing the one soccer ball, but you get to kick it back and forth, so that you've got it flying around instead of just trying to get the right shot.
Yeah, this one's great. I'm loving this one.
This is a cool game.
Yeah.
When I saw this, I was like, "Oh my goodness!"
Yeah, 45 stages would make sense because how many does Bubble Bobble?
All it needs is all it needs is the alphabetical characters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Boop.
And
of
course,
very nice, Jake. Look at you. I'm so proud of you.
I'm a gamer. What can I say?
There's hidden foods if you pick in the right spot on the screen. Every 20 stages, there's a boss.
There's
there's bosses.
I think it was 20. It might have been 10. So I either got to 25 or 45. I don't know because the worlds are long.
Kick Club's cool.
But yeah, Kick Club was really neat. I had a lot of fun with that one.
That's awesome. Okay. Jake, what's one of your favorites that we haven't talked about?
Gosh, I do like a lot of these games. I want to talk about Mooncat for a minute.
Mooncat.
Please explain this.
This game makes no fucking sense.
It doesn't, but it's I kind of like it. So first off, the one thing is I don't even know. First off, I don't know what the hell you are. You're like a little pickle or a penis with legs. But the thing you understand,
a jelly bean. I don't know. It's very strange.
With legs, but the thing you got to understand
it's an eggplant.
Well,
You think
okay.
so?
You see him moving. What you're not getting is the control scheme.
Yeah,
It's
he's not
such
using
a
direct
bizarre
input.
control scheme.
It's
When he
one
moves left,
side.
he's
Yeah, go
hitting
ahead.
any button on the D-pad, any direction, doesn't matter, moves you left.
Okay.
Any button on the right side, so the equivalent to A or B, moves you
Okay.
right.
Yeah. So if this
Now,
was the
if while
controller,
moving, if
would
while
press
moving
this-
one direction, you hit a button to go the other direction while still going, you jump. And then
Yeah.
while you're in the air, if you hit the other
You're a-
direction than you're going again, you dive bomb.
You're a freaking
fucking
embryo.
weird.
You're an embryo.
Yeah,
fucking
it's
weird.
weird.
It's
This
very
game-
weird.
weird.
Yeah.
Now you're a red
It's-
embryo. That's faster. I don't get it.
Okay.
But something about the weird control system, it kind of grows on you when you start getting good at it because you
Yeah.
can dash, you can slide. There's like
can
mushrooms you
dash.
bounce on, different kinds
How
of
do you
enemies.
dash?
You double tap.
I
Is this
tried
why I
that.
like this game? Oh no, you didn't do it.
You did it wrong.
Let me see if I can find this out. But there's also hidden stuff too. Let me see if I can find it over here. But
I like the lips.
it just
The lips are good.
So pop that thing in the mouth.
Yeah.
I'm gonna bounce off here. There's a warp anyway. There's warps in this game. Different tile sets, very variety of enemies. There's kind of like
Bizarre.
bosses. Oop, I just died.
Bizarre is
But
what
this
you're looking for.
this
Anybody who
one
loves
also
Circus
has-
Charlie would love Mooncat. Just
you don't like
saying.
this one at all? Is it just
No.
the controls or just that is weird?
why does it have to be so fucking as Wolf would say? Why does it have to be so fucking obtuse? Just fucking put the controls on the goddamn cross and let me run back and forth and let me figure out the difficulty with that. Don't make it weird for weird's sake. Make it difficult in the game, but
Well,
don't
you
make
know
it
what?
weird because it's strange.
Like, at least despite its weird control scheme and just what the fuckery that the game is constantly throwing at you, it's good. Like,
Yes.
it's
I want to point out that Jake has
it's enjoyable
gold carded
gameplay.
that. Jake
If
has
you-
gold carded it.
He beat
Yeah, I
it,
beat this
Yes,
one.
he has.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Just
so the
because
thing
you're
with
a
this one.
mutated toe with feet doesn't mean that it's entertainment. I don't get it.
Please join Press B's Only Feet account and see more toe action with feet.
Only toe.
no, you know what this one
no,
is?
We're gonna call it
It's-
the Mooncat.
It's so the Mooncat. It's so weird. My thing with beating this one is I want to know why you're called a Mooncat. I want them to explain some things. Why am I an eggplant with feet running across these levels? Why are there warps to Kenny Cotton, Pink Cloud Land? Why are there lips with shooting things at you? The amount of enemies is really bizarre. But you get to the end of it, and you get no answers, basically. There's more to it. There is
Oh, it's a
multiple.
FromSoft game.
There's other endings to it. I think it's more that there's like, if you 100% this one, you get something unique at the ending, I believe is what it is.
Jake,
So I don't want to
know-
spoil it.
Explanation.
Yeah.
I
That's
have all the
want.
answers. I have all the answers, Jake.
That's what an answer.
What's
The
that?
developers, when they decided to make this, they looked at each other and they went, "You want to get high?"
Yeah.
That's definitely a factor of a lot of these games. But it's the unique controls. At first glance, they feel really weird and out of place, but it's a hook, right? It's trying to look at video games, retro games, and how come everybody uses a D-pad? What about other ways of doing input that could be interesting to make the game fun? And there's other games that kind of do similar weird stuff, right? But this is the one where they look at, you have buttons, you have D-pad. There's some pinball games on the NES that did that, where D-pad was the left flipper, buttons were the right flipper, that kind of thing. I feel like there's some inspiration there, but they do so much control-wise. This is the most diverse move set, I think, of all the games on this this compilation. That you have dash, slide, double jump, bounce, jump,
Slam.
and
You have a slam.
slam. Like, there's a lot of movement, and you're only using 2 buttons. So it's the limited control scheme used in pretty unique ways, and I think that's pretty interesting. Again, it's also weird, and I wish they explained stuff. So I'm actually going to go back to it. I want to get the cherry on this one and figure out what that is. I know what the goal is. I won't say it, but I want to go back to this one. I spent a couple hours, I think, on this one. It was interesting. So this is probably one of my favorites on the card. It's hard for me to pick a favorite, but Mooncat is great.
To paraphrase
embryo.
South Park, Mooncat, you're the worst character ever.
I know.
You know what's fun? In the description that the game gives you for Mooncat, it says it was conceived as a spiritual sequel to Barbuda.
And I like Barbuda. Yeah, that's true.
And I hated Barbuda, but I like Mooncat.
Okay.
Interesting.
I didn't
Okay.
give it enough of a run to give it an honest
But
shake.
also, it seems like I found something that's like a clue for one of the secrets. So not in the terminal for the code, but in the Kick Club history, it says a versus mode was started, but not finished before the game's release date. So it sounds like you can probably find a hidden versus mode by one of those terminal codes.
All right.
It wouldn't surprise me. Like, there's a lot of local. I'll say it for the last 5 minutes of the episode, but there's some interesting stuff.
I have another question.
Sure.
How many games are multiplayer?
There's quite a few.
And
it's like
half,
25 or so, about half.
And is it same screen multiplayer?
Yes. They're all same
a lot
screen.
Of them
there's
are.
no. Yeah.
I don't know about
alternates.
Mooncat.
I'm pretty sure Mooncat was on the same screen at the same time, if I'm not wrong. I don't think they did the alternate multiplayer because nobody really cared for that. I'm pretty sure it's all same screen multiplayer. Sometimes co-op, sometimes adversarial. Like, there's a fighting game in here that's Smash Brothers like, and that can be done multiplayer.
Really?
You haven't seen that one? Yeah, there's a Smash Brothers one. There's like 6 characters, shield, jumps. Everybody has a unique move.
With the rings.
Yes, so you get hit, you lose like a Sonic ring, and the first person to collect 5 of those rings wins. It's actually a very interesting fighting game. There's a few interesting ones.
I enjoyed that
one.
I've only fired up, it looks like 26 games.
Okay. And the thing is with this compilation is, like, you're spending several hours in just one game. It's still mind-blowing to me how there's 50 of these damn things. Like, it really is crazy.
Well, in the scheme of things, I always reference, movie price, right? A 2-hour movie is generally, we'll call it $8 to $9 for a ticket. Plus you're going to get your popcorn, plus you're going to get your drink, whatever. So really, you're talking 15 to 20 bucks a person to go see a movie, and that's 2 hours. So if anything comes in less than that, like, you've won, right?
Right.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And that's why, like, when it comes to video games,
$40 with how many fucking games are in this thing.
So
it's like $1 a game,
It's tricky though, because like Plucky Squire being like a full game, 10 hours, right? $40 felt too much for that game. If this game, although now I'll say it's easily worth the 50, 60 bucks if it was. If it was priced at 40, I may not have bought it. I may have passed on it or waited for a sale because the price is a barrier to, like, is it going to be worth it for me? And it's like, I'm not kidding when I told you, Chard, game of the year, but you may not like it because if you don't like the retro NES games, like going through that catalog of games and just seeing what's there, this could very easily not be fun for a lot of people. But at 25 bucks, I mean, I think it's totally worth that price to dive into it. But for 40,
for sure,
could have been different.
I do want to say, this is a total aside, but it's kind of the same conversation. I really feel like the price shift that's happening in games right now is giving people that pause. I really feel like if a regular game had been 60 bucks instead of 70 now, you would have looked at 40 bucks for Plucky Squire and been like, yeah, it's fine. But no, because they're bumping everything up, you're like, is that the state of the
I mean, I picked up Silent Hill 2 for $70, so it's like
for too much.
Jesus, it was
far
too
that's
expensive,
the thing, right?
But I really want to play it. So
like Ubisoft has learned that lesson, right? They just released a freaking Star Wars game, and it didn't sell well. And what universe does Star Wars not sell and make money, right? But they charged $70 for it, but they got a lot of backlash because they had a season's pass for extra quests and stuff that weren't included part of the $70. And that's the backlash that people are like, what are you kidding me? Or the worst is, like, you have games now where they charge you an extra $20 for the deluxe edition, where they let you play a weekend early or a week early. And that always drove me nuts because you're going to pay it. You are. Right? So
I never will. I never will.
For the listeners, I'm raising my hand right now because that's my dumb move.
So
that was
it was $10. Thank you, not 20. Jesus.
I don't know that I care for that when it's like one of the few like small perks as a deluxe edition. That's kind of horseshit. Like the deluxe edition for, and this is a big tangent, but Visions of Mana just came out, and I mean, at least that's only $60. But I was considering getting it, and I was looking at the deluxe edition, and it's like you get some extra experience goodies and like some new outfits, and you get to like change the soundtrack to be a mixture of soundtracks from all the old mana games. It's kind of cool. It's not $20 cool.
Right.
So
no, unless you're like me and you're like, oh, I get a pyramid head hat that's made out of cardboard for an extra $10.
I will
get to play it 3 days early.
I will, like, when I've done Kickstarters, I will jump on the extra when it's something like I get to participate in the beta, right? If I get to actually participate in the beta and give feedback and all of that, I view that as I get a benefit and then they also get a benefit. But yeah, if they're like, hey, you get it a weekend early, I'm like, go screw.
Wow.
Yeah, so I think there might be a bit of a change with game pricing, and as consumers are kind of pushing back in certain ways, right? Like when games like, you know, love it or hate it, but Helldivers 2 was $40, and that was a lot of gameplay for $40, right?
Yeah.
Concord comes out for I think it was $40.
Yeah.
Well, until it wasn't. Although it's better now, I've heard. But anyway. But do you have games? So you have games like Assassin's Creed Shadows was supposed to be out, I think, in a couple of weeks. It's supposed to be at the Tokyo Game Show to be showed off this week, and Ubisoft last minute canceled and pulled it. And the sounds like it's because Star Wars Outlaws not doing so hot for them, and it's a Star Wars property. They're like, guys, we got to back away and look at what we're doing. So they're pushing back Shadows to February now, getting rid of the Seasons Pass and all that stuff, refunding anybody who pre-ordered it, and kind of trying a different tactic with it. I hope it works for them.
And because, coming back to Steam.
And coming back to Steam, which is the other thing Ubisoft used to drive people nuts for. So anyway, big tangent, but pricing of games definitely matters. And for indies especially, there's a line between I'll try it because it's $5 or $40 is kind of pushing it. Right? You're not Helldivers, right? So, but this at 25, it feels underpriced now. But when I first bought it, if it was more than 25, I probably would have passed.
Well, yeah, if you 20 hours of gameplay, Sinistar, have you and I put in for like fucking Devour?
Oh, sure, but
that
to
game
Jake's,
is still $5.99.
To Jake's point, though, if I honestly, here's the rub for me. I have my little C64 Mini sitting right here, which came loaded with, I don't know, 50 games or whatever. Right. The problem is like it's 7 good games. And 43 bad games, right? And so that's the other thing is I look at a compilation like this. I have been programmed by not developers, but by people that are packing this shit together, that you're going to get garbage and a few gems, right? And so I'd look at that and be like $25. No way in hell, right?
Right.
I'm glad that this is the other way. I'm glad that this is the other way.
Yeah, this game has something for everyone, I think.
Yeah.
It's not just these pack-in compilations that you're talking about, but also stuff like let's look at Action 52. How many games on Action 52 were any good? Like the value proposition was that you're basically getting 52 games for $50. It's $1 a game, right?
Yeah.
Well, this is it. So we've got that sort of mindset for these old games. Like, they must, most of them must be trash. It's not all.
Cheetah Man has a good theme song, but
or reskin on the same game 4 times, right?
Yeah, and so,
but even like
that's
Atari,
a negative.
Like Atari 50 that Digital Eclipse did, I rave about that docu game, not because it's 100 Atari 2600 or Atari games, because a lot of those games, I love Atari, but they're not that good. They don't have the Activision titles, so it's not a great compilation for 100 games. The value there is the documentaries, the interviews, the video, the stuff surrounding it, the history. It's not necessarily the games, right? Where this compilation has fake history, but the games are pretty good.
I'm loving this. I'm loving this.
Yeah.
Fake history is really cool. Like I like the fact that the games have 80s dates on them. Like if you cycle through them in chrono, it's like 1985, 1987. They're very true to the source material of that time. Yeah,
I'm glad. I'm going to call this out. I'm glad we have a Jake on our team who goes out and buys these compilations.
Yes, his FOMO has saved us a lot of time.
Because the rest of us are going to be like, that's going to be like that same garbage shovelware, and move along. But Jake gives it a chance and then gives us all the, hey, you guys need to try this out.
Don't give
I'm
him too
telling you,
much
'cause
credit.
I've
He's
been
still trying to get us to play Marvel Snap and Circus Charlie. So let's.
one of these days. But I've been burned on indie games before, right? Where I felt like I've been ripped off. Like I think the one I played recently, like Gravity Boy or whatever, I just didn't like that at all, and that was more than $20. So I've been burned on these games before. So it's a combination of the price, the number of games, and hearing that they weren't mini games. It was not WarioWare. It's something more substantial is what hooked me. We've heard from Wolf, another favorite one. Chard, how about you give us one more favorite?
This is cool. This is a cool one that I played last night again that I just kind of fell into, and it's not something that I would normally find myself playing, especially in an NES version of the game. But everybody knows that I'm pretty big on the horror survival type games that are out there. This is not that. However, this game called Night Manor, which is basically a point and click adventure that's, I guess everybody's saying resembles a little bit of Shadowgate. At least that's what Jake kind of said, that there's some resemblance to it on how you play it. It's a mystery. It's you wake up in a room, you don't know how you got there. There's items you pick up. It's like King's Quest, and it's a first person view. So you're seeing yourself, or you're seeing what the character's seeing, and you're just trying to get through this house that has dead bodies in it, a mummified person in a bathtub, and something is chasing you while you're in there. And there's dark rooms. It's actually kind of scary. I'm not gonna lie. There's for being an 8-bit, very limited color palette type game, you get popped up on by this thing chasing you from time to time, and you're like, oh shit! Like, I don't know. It's great. I very much enjoyed playing it. This is not something I would typically find myself playing, but I found myself way past my bedtime last night playing this on the Steam Deck when I started it at a reasonable hour. So
getting terrorized while you're trying to go to sleep.
Yeah, it was very reminiscent of my Doom playthrough back in 2005, where my wife was elbowing my side, going, "What are you fucking playing? You're waking the dog. Shut up." It's good because there's a lot of thought to it. There's a lot of puzzles. There's lore in the game. You're collecting diary pages and trying to uncover what happened in this house, why you're here, and how to get the hell out of it. Now you can leave the house and you walk the grounds outside, and there's a bunch of shit, that you find outside. You got to get like tools to unlock things or find a shovel to dig a hole to find something in there and this, that, and the other. It's very much a puzzler and a collectathon, but it's not a collectathon in the platforming sense where it's like Banjo-Kazooie or something like that. It's very thought-provoking. I really enjoyed it. I want to know what happens. So I'll be playing a little bit more of this.
This is like a horror version of Maniac Mansion.
Yeah, feels like it.
Essentially. It's pretty cool. It's really neat. Like I said, with the limited palette, there's your dead guy. You found your dead guy.
This is actually really good. This controls really well.
Good.
Yeah.
It's really good for what it is, for what it's on. I was really impressed with that. And I thought it'd be difficult with the Steam Deck controls, like moving the hand around and stuff. No, it feels pretty good. When you get jumped on it, there's a really cool thing that happens when the bad guy finds you, or when the thing hunting you finds you. Your hand starts to shake in the game because you're scared. So you're trying to either use a weapon or get the hell out of there, and you're trying to line it up on the stuff to move, and it makes it a little more difficult.
Horror game bingo, the toilet flushes.
It does. It does.
This is really good. This feels really good. I mean, that's the thing with all these games. It's very limited controls in that it's D-pad and 2 buttons. That's all you got. But some of the games will do things like hold a button is one input, tapping is another one. So they kind of play, they change things up. Or something will have the menu or whatnot. So it still fits really well. I want to play more of that, actually. I don't want to play too far because I'm going to spoil it like Shadowgate would. But that's a really rad one.
Yeah, it's a cool game.
Yeah. Did you beat that one?
I have not. I was falling asleep while I was playing it last night. And I was like, I'll jump back into this later. And it's not because I was bored. It's because it was like midnight, and I was like, I fucking got to work tomorrow. I got to go to bed.
Yeah.
Is that one that
I would have kept on grinding?
Is that one you can
I haven't fired it up, I'm pretty sure. Because even when you get caught, if you get caught, it'll start you back over in the first room, but you still have everything that you came out with, and you can still leave and still explore.
So the bad guy hauls you off and throws you back in the room.
There's something to it. It's not necessarily he grabs you and hauls you off. I won't spoil anything for you, but
Okay.
this is definitely one that I think you guys should check out and try for a little bit. It's pretty cool. I really enjoyed it.
Nice.
Yeah.
All
So
right,
just to
well,
throw out a couple quick bites about some of the games without going too in depth. For those who know what Crocono is, it's a popular in Canada. I don't know if you guys have it down there. It's a game where you flick little discs around on a wooden board to knock the other person's discs into goals. It's a very tactile, physical board game. There's a game in this called Knights of Disconia, where that's what it is. You get like units,
air hockey, but with
kind
soldiers.
of. Yeah, and you get to make your units, and like the troll unit is like massive disc where your soldiers are really small. The archer discs can shoot arrows, but you're flicking these discs across the battlefield to take down the enemy. That one was rad. There's like a number block puzzle game called Koala Blocks. There's a game that's like Windjammers. It's like a dodgeball, the samurai game, sports game. It's really rad.
Bushido ball.
Ball. I am awful at that.
I'm no good at it either. There's
another
one
it's a really cool take on Pong.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, it feels very much like Windjammers, which is a Neo Geo arcade game, which is like that. Yeah. There was one. What was the one I played recently? That was there's like a horse racing game, but it's alien runners, and you can like buy like juice to juice up your alien runner so he runs faster. You can bet on other runners to beat the other players. It reminds me of like the horse race betting games on the Atari when I was a kid. Like
there was a genuine horse racing game on the Intellivision that I remember. Yeah.
Yep.
It's like that, but with power-ups. Think of it that way in this game. There's a Smash TV clone, right? That lets you buy things between rounds. And there's a push or a risk and reward. You can risk more money payout, but you have more waves of enemies. That one is actually really rad. There was a shooting game that you're in a car on a highway, and you can shoot in an arc above your car, and you control where you're directing your shooting, or you can shoot left or right behind your car. But if the trick is, if you slow down to aim your shots, you lose power in your meter. You have to go back and forth and be getting traction and drift to build up your power meter. So like there's dozens of games here where there's like a really good hook, and they're really great to get into. And some there's more involved than others. There's like a Pocky and Rocky clone, which is like a top-down shooting game in a fantasy world, and you collect cards and you get 3 of the same kind of card. You get a special power-up. I don't know how many power-ups there are, but there's a lot of variety in that shooting game, and there's bosses in multiple stages. The one game that I went,
there's Hellfist,
beat 'em ups
with the zombies. There's Cyber Owl that plays like it's almost like Ninja Gaiden.
Cyber Owl has like 4 types of gameplay in it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Which was wild.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like one is like Platoon, and it's like a shooter from behind the shoulder. I know there was like a Metal Gear Solid stealth missions, and then there's a beat 'em up. Like you're right. There's like 4 kinds of gameplay in one game.
One is like, a little tactical RPG.
Yes. Yeah. It's really involved.
Char to love it.
Yeah, I avoided that one.
The one I wanted to talk about real quick is Warp Tank, which I think could have been its own game outside of this compilation. Let me pull it up really quick. Oh, there's a Karnov clone too, which actually has a really good hook.
Oh, nice.
But Warp Tank is, you look like you're a tank from Blaster Master, but you're not.
Yeah.
The hook is you can warp to the other side of the screen. That's the hook.
That totally looks like Blaster Master for sure.
Yeah, like you guys know me in Blaster Master, so when I saw this little tank, I was like, "Ooh, I'm interested already." And then
it's like Blaster Master meets Metal Storm.
Yes,
because you can switch the gravity.
Oh yeah, it definitely is Metal Storm.
But it's more of an action puzzly game, right? Like it's very much a puzzle game, but it's not short. There's I think it's 27 stages. It tells you when you beat the game how many stages there are.
There are 27.
Yeah. But it has
I only
2
found
bosses.
23.
Okay, but there's 2 bosses. I think I had 24 because some of the stages on the overworld map were actually hidden. So I found one of the hidden ones. But like and I died. But there's lots of variety in gameplay. And again, the hook is you're a tank, you shoot, and you can warp across the screen. But I mean, some of the stages you can go on a slope, and when you're on a slope, suddenly you can change your angle. So you're attacking stages from both top and bottom, but also left and right. It gets pretty involved, and I was pretty hooked on this game I think I put 6 hours into this one before I beat it. But it was enough where I'm like, I want more of this. It was pretty long, yeah. Let me see how long I put on this one. I felt like it was longer than I thought.
had
3 hours.
2 hours and 37 minutes.
Well, I got 3 hours. Yeah, 3 hours. And then the cherry is you get all the hidden coffee. So there certain stages have a hidden coffee, which is like a recurring Easter egg in some of the games. And if you collect all the coffees hidden in this game, you get the cherry. But yeah, this was a good one. 1985, it says.
Nice.
Warp Tank was pretty solid, and it's just an example of I would have paid $5 for that game on its own on Steam. Add in more levels, I would have paid 10. Like it's just this easily could have been a standalone game, and that's just crazy to me.
Yeah, it's a decent little game for sure.
Yeah,
that's cool.
There's a deck builder game called Party House, and when I say deck builder, I mean a deck builder, right? For those who know that kind of board game trope, there's that. There's a special game in this called Pilot Quest, which is it's an idle game, which you don't really think of an idle game for the NES era, but in this it kind of works in that when you're busy playing other games, in Pilot Quest the clock is still counting and you're gaining the currency. Your things work for you. I have not gotten very far in this one, sadly. Because I can't figure the damn thing out. But the loop is you're building up crystals and ingots, and then you're using the money to buy. I can't buy because I can't see yes on the screen. You're getting meat, and once you have meat, you talk to the slug guy, which makes total sense. And you go into something called the Wild Zone, which is basically a
Toe Jam and Earl.
Yeah, but when you go into the Wild Zone, it feels like Blaster Master, legit this time, like the inside areas.
Yeah, the top-down part of Blaster Master.
Yeah, but you're on a clock. So like the more meat you bring with you, the longer you can stay out here and exploring things. But the risk is the further you go, if you don't give yourself enough time to get back, you lose everything when you die. So it's like oxygen in a way.
Yeah, and your time is also when you take damage, you lose an amount of time per hit, depending on what hit you.
And like the goal of this one is to find 3 ship parts. And the ship parts are in legit dungeons. Like it's crazy. Go ahead, Chard.
There's also
a reoccurring trope throughout this game of this particular character and this Bell spaceship that you see in several other games throughout. So Campanella 2 and 3.
Yeah.
And this guy is the pilot for one of them. So you see this character quite a bit, as well as the spaceship. It is UFO 50, right? So the name of the game itself, it's got some really cool reoccurring themes throughout each game that you're like, oh, this guy's from this or this guy's from that, which I'm a big fan of that kind of stuff. So
this area reminds me. I know you said Blaster Master top down, but for me, Alien Syndrome.
Rygar. Oh, yeah, that too.
Yeah,
it's also very Rygar during the top down segments.
Sure.
Yes, but it's neat. And again, like when you leave, you come back and it's like you're building stuff. So this is one, if you do pick this game up, start Pilot Quest early, just so you start that clock on building the materials. But I've still barely scratched the surface on figuring out where I'm supposed to go because I'm just terrible at that one. But it's a neat concept. Just any genre you can think of, there's a game in here, from like puzzle to sports to arcade to action, everything. Like it's really good. And you said Campanella 1, 2, and there's a third one. Yeah. I like how it's a fictional compilation. There's sequels to their made up games, right?
Yeah.
Like there's
I appreciate that. That's fun.
Yeah. Like there's Mortal, right? And then there's Mortal 2. But so Mortal 2 is very much like the first game. It builds on the same tropes, but it's a lot more expansive and looks better, right? Like it's crazy. Mortal is a game that reminds me of Lemmings. Do you want to explain it, Wolf?
Yeah, I really enjoyed this one. I think I'm on World 3 at this point, 3-1 or something.
Okay.
But yeah, it's like you said, like Lemmings, but if it were played like Mario Brothers instead of like, a wait and do kind of thing. So you actively control your little dude, and you can turn them to stone to make a platform, or you can launch yourself into the wall to make a platform that your other guys can jump on or like shoot through guys. The stone can also like weigh a block down, so that way it's holding a switch active or something like that. And then you can also just explode to break through blocks and kill enemies. But then there's also the fact that if your dude dies on the spikes, now his body is a platform protecting future guys from the spikes there.
Yeah, I saw. Yeah.
Yeah, or if he drowns, what you saw was he broke the spikes with the stone. But if you just fall on spikes and die, your body is there as a platform on top of
Oh, okay.
Oh, I
okay.
didn't realize you could do that.
If you drown, the body floats up to the top of the water, and now that's a platform on top of the water to jump off and up.
This is kind of morbid now.
It really is, but it's also really cool. And as you're going through the stage, like in the video here, you're not seeing it because I think the amount of lives is at the top right.
Yeah.
But you start with like 20 guys, and as you're going through the level, every time one dies, you lose one. But killing certain enemies might
gains one back.
Gain some. And then every once in a while, you'll see like a 3 or a 5 or a 10 somewhere on the stage. And if you grab that, it adds that many extra soldiers to your allotment.
That's cool.
And so it tracks that stage by stage. So like if you beat the first stage and you're up 11, now the next stage you're up 11. So instead of starting with 20, you'd start with 31. Okay. And then however you score on that one, it'll add or subtract. And then the next stage will start. And so let's say you're 6 stages in and you don't have enough lives. And you go back to an earlier stage and you do better. That plus that you get will be added all the way down the line so that you have more lives at the end.
Oh, I didn't realize you could do that. That's really good to know.
It's really neat. I really appreciate how they did that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So like Immortal, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say Immortal 2 takes that idea, but gives you classes instead of just, a button combination to enact what you wanted to do. And so those different classes have different abilities. Like I don't remember what the ninja guy is called, but he has double scout. The scout has double jump and like 3 ninja stars or maybe 4 ninja stars or whatever before he dies, like shurikens. And then that's it for him. But he can also make a teleporter spot somewhere in the map so that other guys can get to that spot because he can double jump and everybody else can't.
So what game is there's the one where it's the dwarves or whatever, and
Lost
each one
Vikings.
has Lost Vikings. It's kind of like a Lost Vikings a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah, very similar, but again, limited lives, right? Yeah.
Yeah, you start with like 99 lives or something, and every new life you lose one, and so the next life you get pulls from that. You pick your class, and you continue on your adventure. And so the idea is you use the scout to like put the teleporter somewhere further. And so that way your next guy can teleport there and continue on the journey and things like that. And it's a neat concept. It feels like an unusual, like to me, it kind of feels like, oh, I didn't know you could do that and freeze in midair. Wow. It feels for whatever reason, it kind of reminds me of Iron Sword.
Wow.
Wizards and Warriors.
Yeah.
It kind of reminds me of Wizards and Warriors, but
Jake may have
you didn't do yourself a favor. You can double jump. Double jump after you come out of that.
Yep. Jake's feeling good.
God, rage quitting that one. But it's neat that there's a sequel to a game. And I really like Mortal 1. Mortal 2, they kind of lost me. Fucking game.
I enjoy Mortal 2, but it's a very different experience despite playing on a very similar base mechanic. And I appreciate that that's how they did it, because when you look at some NES games, you see like, let's compare Bubble Bobble to Rainbow Islands. They're very much not the same game, but Rainbow Islands is Bubble Bobble too, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's different, but with a very similar base idea in mind, to where it kind of feels samey, but not so samey that you're like, oh, this is the exact same game. It's not like Madden 2018 to 2019 or whatever it was. But
hey, there's a new roster every year.
Well,
what I like about
there was literally maybe it was 2K or whatever, but I don't know. There was one of them where it went from 2018 to 2019, but then in the stands in one of the fields, you'd see 2018 on the banner. Like they literally just copy pasted it.
Yeah. For me, I like how it's there's Campanella in this. There's Campanella 1, which is like a gravity, like a kind of like a lunar lander with shooting or slashing. Then there's Campanella 2, which has almost got some Blaster Master exploration tones to it. And then all of a sudden it's Campanella 3, it's in 3D. It kind of reminds me of how there's Earthworm Jim 1 and 2, and then they went Earthworm Jim 3D, and you're like, what the hell are you doing? So I like how they did that kind of stuff, and it's pretty rad.
This is
so
awesome.
We're going pretty long. I did want to spend a couple of minutes talking about not saying what the secrets are. I will not spoil it. I won't tell you the codes, but just a couple of things on what's in the game beyond the games, if that's okay with you guys.
As long as it's generalized and not, Yeah.
So again, like we mentioned earlier in the episode, there is a terminal screen, and that's your gateway to entering codes. And I'm going to say it again, the codes are hidden everywhere. You have to look everywhere, and you're looking for words, and that's how you do it. Like intros, endings, all over the place. Just randomly opening the terminal in that maze of gibberish, sometimes there's a code. And that's how I found how I got started. There's a Discord of code hunters. I've deliberately avoided opening it. But I get a very much a similar vibe to like Animal Well, which came out early this year, or Tunic, right? Where people went crazy and finding secrets in Tunic. I don't think it's as deep here, but for a game that's been in development for 8 years and there's 50 games, they've definitely hidden some cool stuff. To the point where there's like, I mean, I don't know if they're fake prototypes or actual prototypes, but there's prototypes of some of the games, and there's slightly different gameplay. Right, like to give example, there's a painting game in this where you have to like I don't explain. You're coloring the screen, and there's enemies on the screen coloring their color.
Tron.
Yeah. Imagine
Tron.
Qbert.
Yes.
Imagine Qbert if it played like Rally X.
Yes, that's a good way of putting it. Yeah, the Tron light cycles, but Rally X. There's a prototype version of that, which is a little bit stripped down and a little bit harder. So there's unlockable prototypes for some of the games in here, and there's also a meta story of like this is a fictional company, UFO Soft, and there's a location you can visit and explore that looks to be UFO Soft headquarters. That's what it looks like. I don't know how deep it goes, but I've seen more than one screen. I'll put it that way. So it's not a game per se that's unlockable. It's more like an experience or a small bit of a narrative to it, an Easter egg, I guess, to what it is. But there's stuff to it.
You enter the back rooms.
Yes, that's very much what it feels like. You enter the back rooms, and that's where you start finding like prototypes to other games in the compilation. It's really cool, and they didn't need to do that, but the fact that they did makes me really love this game more, and makes me a lot more keen to get the cherry in all the carts to see if that does something, if that gives you something new. Like there's 50 games already. I feel like I'm being greedy asking for a 51st or 2nd or 3rd, but I wonder if there is something like that in here, because like it's crazy how much they've hidden in there. So it's really neat. I know when I first started playing this, how I was having a hard time with a lot of the games. And I jokingly said on Twitter to the developer, you need to add like a DLC for a Game Genie or something. And nobody said a word. And I'm wondering if it's because this terminal might be some kind of way to cheat codes in some way. I've come across what I thought might have been cheats, but I can't figure what the codes do, because they say activated no matter what game or screen you're on. Sometimes it will do the thing, but other times it just says accepted, but I don't see what it did. So there's a few codes I found where I don't know what they do. And that's also interesting as I try and figure out what the codes do and where. So, I mean, at some point I might want to spoil myself and look it up, but I'm right now having a blast just casually finding codes, and there's a lot of them. There's a lot. And that's just really compelling to me. Like this game is, the hidden stuff, the meta, the fake lore, and the fiction around this compilation, that's what's making me feel like this is a game of the year possibility for me personally, because it's more than just 50 games that are fun, right? Yes, they're meaty and longer than you may think, but there's stuff behind them that they built. It's really damn cool. Like this is a fantastic compilation. Like I love Derek Hughes stuff. I love Splunky. I was terrible at it, but I liked it. He's got other developers on here. Like I wish I remember their names offhand, but one of the guys did Downwell. He's one of the guys. There's another guy who helped on Splunky. There's a few different developers who did indie games that we probably all played at some point over the last 5 years or earlier. And you feel the inspiration of this game going back to those game jams, right? I always look for London Dare competitions. Those are the indie game competitions where you have like X number of days to make a game. I love seeing those and the experiments people make. That's what this is. It's those experiments, but fleshed out to a really great polished form. And there's 50 of them, which is crazy. And there's secrets involved, and there's stuff behind the scenes. Like that's crazy. Yeah. Like, I don't know if we'll ever get a UFO 52 in a SNES style. I would love to see it, but I don't think we ever will, because I think the amount of work that went into this over 8 years is staggering. Like, it's just wild.
Yeah, seems legit.
It's
one of the developers credited for this. Oh, never mind. I'm reading something different. Okay. Ignore me. I thought it was saying that they were a developer of Action 52, and I was going to be like, that's a little meta.
No.
But no.
No, people like the shout Action 52 because that's what you think it is when you boot it up, right? Action 52. There's 52 games, and they're all, and you play them, and so much variety. But that game, they're all trash, right? This is a compilation, and they're almost entirely good. I mean, or you know what? I would say they're all good, but they're not going to be for everybody, right? Some of these, like the block
That's
number
fair.
puzzle, right? Koala blocks, not for me at all. I bounced instantly off that one. There's one called Magic Garden that's like I think it's like an arcade.
Oh, Koala Blocks was
snake
like
game?
Adventures of Lolo, right?
Oh, I
Is
love
it?
Adventures of Lolo.
But there's numbers
it?
involved, and I couldn't figure
It's
it
less
out.
numbers. It's more, but it has that you have to collect things and make a path
Yes.
to get
Yeah.
through the next area. It's very. I was like, this is like Adventures of Lolo, very much so. I
can
like
feel that.
Lolo. I'm gonna have to fire that up.
Yeah, I thought very much like that.
Like the there's one that's a beanbag, like dodgeball style game, and the characters remind me of is it the Kunio franchise, Wolf, where Riverside Ransom characters come from?
Yeah.
Yeah, so like because that's all franchise with sports titles. This beanbag sports title feels straight out of that universe, and it just there's power ups and pickups, and it's some really good stuff. Like there's just everything here is so good, and like 50 games, we could spend a series breaking down these games. There's just that much here. It really is quite something.
This is worth
Well,
$25.
I think you've convinced me to buy it. Wait.
Or to play it.
No, it's really cool though. Like Jake has, I feel like we haven't even done the game justice for what kind of stuff there is. Like there's a top-down driving game called Onion Delivery or some shit.
I loved Onion
and it feels
Delivery.
like it feels like the madness of Simpsons Hit and Run or Crazy Taxi.
Yeah, Crazy Taxi.
But
Yeah,
top down, like the cab in Who Framed Roger Rabbit, but fast as hell.
Yep. Onion Delivery was fun. That was a fun little like side.
At one point I'm turning and driving, and all of a sudden driving into 3 cars in oncoming traffic and blow up my car. Like
that's my Tuesday afternoon.
Yeah, that's sounds like my old commute to my old job.
Like
but
it's
there's really stuff all over the board in this, and it's really cool to see.
Yeah. Like I'm curious to look at speedrun.com for this in a couple of months, just to see how people are getting speedrun records and the various of the 50 games that are here, and whether they actually break it apart into 50 different games or they have the whole category on their page. Like it'll be interesting to see, because there's a lot of meat to a lot of these games. It's just, a lot of them I would have paid separately for without a question, and just as a bundle, it's nuts. Like if you have any nostalgia for NES games. And like I really mean the early NES games, like Nuts and Milk, like Donkey Kong or Balloon Fight. Fuck you, it's good. That's what this feels like. A collection of black box games.
Joust is great. You're right. Joust is great.
It's crazy. It's crazy. But yeah, there's just so much here. So UFO 50, I think it's definitely one anybody should play if you're a fan of retro. It's so worth the $25. It could be 40 and I would not bat an eyelash now. Beforehand, I understand why people would be hesitant, but 25, it's no contest. It really is a no-brainer. Anything else we want to say on this one? You're right, Wolf. I don't think we did it justice. I don't think anybody could in an hour and a half. The game there's so much here, but we tried.
Yeah.
Go buy it. Really is.
Go pick it up.
Yeah, and it's easy enough to look at it and be like, okay, if I like all these games a little, they're 50 cents a pop. If I like a handful of games quite a bit, the games I don't like, whatever, they were free, and I paid like $2 a game.
Right.
Exactly.
It's still not bad. Like if you think of it in terms of when you purchase a bundle, these are a lot of good games in this bundle.
Yeah.
And you're probably going to find a few that you're going to get hooked on.
Agreed.
All right.
Nice.
Well, real quick then, I guess, where can folks find you guys? What are you guys up to? Sinistar, how about you? Are you still streaming?
I'm yes. I skipped this last week. For those that are unaware, I'm in the middle of trying to buy a new house. It's a process. We're gonna call it a process. We're gonna call it a process.
One of us. One of us.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I have a house. I'm buying.
Yeah, but you didn't buy it this year like Jake and I did last year.
Okay. But I am trying to stay doing the DJ stuff on Mondays, and I am trying to stay doing the co-DJing with Soul Archaic on Saturdays. And then the Kickstarter that I backed for Beyond Shadowgate came to fruition, and I'm about to start that, so you may hear about that in the near future.
Yeah, I think we're going to do an episode on that one. What I've seen early footage, it looks real good. Like a real nostalgia hit for the NES Shadowgate. It looks awesome. I'm glad to see that.
I'm trying to find the hard drive space to install it.
What was it, 5 megs?
It's 40.
It's 40.
It's on a disc.
2024. Yeah.
The PDF, because of course PDFs are nice and efficient. The PDF strategy guide that they released with it is like 100 megs.
Jesus. Classic.
It's wild. It looks great though.
Forever on a 28.8.
So it's Soul Archaic on Twitch or DJ Spinistar, right?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay. Wolf, what about you? What are you up to, or what have you been playing?
I've been playing this. I've been playing that other fan game we mentioned, and we'll not talk about that directly here because that might make an appearance in an upcoming episode. Plus, we want to give it time to maybe survive.
Yeah. Well, for those who
we
are
did
curious
talk about
about the
it in
fan
the Discord,
game,
though.
Yeah, it's on Discord. Check out pressbee.com, pressbee2cancel.com for our Discord link and look at the fan game Wolf is talking about.
Yeah, I've had a lot of fun with that. I also recently listened to the audiobook for Disrupting the Game by Reggie Fils-Aimé. And it talks about it's his memoir about like how he grew up and started his career and how he ended up at Nintendo and how he actually affected the culture of Nintendo of Japan and sort of changed the trajectory while he was there and, what he did after. It was pretty cool. And it gave me a lot of insights as to, how hands-on he was. Like, he was not just the face that we saw. Like, he was actually pretty involved. It's wild. Especially for a guy who was not developer at all. He was a marketer.
Right. Well, that's the thing, because like Nintendo Japan president and CEO, from what I remember, were developers that worked their way up to the head of Nintendo, right? Yeah. Mm-hmm. And we look at something like the story of Sega Japan versus Sega USA and how Sega Japan kind of made decisions for Sega USA despite their protests. So it's interesting to see that for Nintendo, Reggie kind of like steered in a better direction, or at least helped guide them to the market and how it's different over here.
Yeah. And I would say that, I think it was Howard Lincoln that was running Sega at the time. The Genesis was in charge. Or at least took up a big market share. Do I have the wrong name? I don't remember.
Howard was Nintendo before Reggie, I think, wasn't he?
Howard.
Gosh, I'd have to go look it up.
Gosh, now I don't remember. But
yeah,
the guy who was in charge of Sega of America in the 90s and got Genesis like eating a huge market share, he made a lot of similar moves that Reggie did, but Sega of Japan was like, no.
Yeah.
But, and it was, you got to remember, it was also like 20, 30 years earlier, but Reggie made a lot of those similar moves and pushed for the same sort of ideas, but he actually came out on top. But I also think how they addressed it was a little different. It's really interesting to see. I like listening to this kind of stuff and hearing the trials and tribulations of the backside of it.
Yeah, this sounds interesting for sure.
Yeah, awesome.
And it wasn't a long one. It was only like 8 hours. You even get a little interview with him and Jeff Keighley at the end. If you go to the audiobook.
Jeff Keighley, okay. Interesting. Yeah, I love all that stuff about games history. I probably check it out. I might read it, though, instead of listening to it. But yeah, that's on my list of stuff to check out. That's a really good one.
Yeah, I picked up Richard Garriott's couple books about his history, and I need to read them.
Lord British, yeah.
Lord British.
Chard, how about yourself? What are you up to?
So much. Thinking I might have a schedule now. Probably not. Being made fun of by my team about not being able to convict myself to doing one goddamn thing at a time. I am planning on starting Silent Hill 2 remake next weekend. As for this weekend, I have no idea. We might play around with this particular game that we have, or God, if I don't even know what I'm doing anymore. So I'm going to be on Twitch at some point during this weekend. You can come and find me. And the next weekend, I'm going to go see Hans Zimmer with the wife, who is
Nice.
famous for Pirates of the Caribbean, Interstellar, Inception. A lot
Gladiator,
of
I think Gladiator.
Maybe
Was it Gladiator?
He's in a lot of stuff that I didn't realize he was in, or he did, that he wrote for. So I'm really excited to see all his stuff live. To see like Interstellar music live will be pretty mind blowing, I think. So,
well, so this weekend, come over to Charge Channel and watch him play Nuts and Milk.
Yes,
it's a classic.
I don't know.
Everybody loves that game. Everybody loves.
I keep trying to get to Quantum Break, but I really want to play Alan Wake 2 because not only is it Halloween season coming up and it's a spooky game, we just finished Alan Wake 1, and Jake and I really want to talk about it. So it's one of those things where we're just like, what am I doing with my life? And you can find out here and on twitch.tv/Chartermonk as I also try to figure out what my fucking life is.
Yeah. So for myself, Alan Wake 2 is definitely a game I want to play through. I feel like I want to start over because I've been a few weeks distracted. I was confused when I was playing it the first time. And I feel like I was better playing that right after Alan Wake 1 and not having a gap. So, I think you should play Alan Wake 2 because it's definitely a great game. Also might be game of the year. There's so many games of the year this year. Yeah, it's pretty fantastic. I'm also checking out The Legend of Zelda Echoes of Wisdom. We'll see how that goes. I might record something for the channel. It's interesting what I've played so far. It's, for those that don't know, it's in the same style as Link's Awakening's remake on the Switch, but it's featuring Zelda, which is something I know with two of my older kids have been, how come Zelda can't be the hero? And that's what this is, which is nice to see. But I'm not quite sure I'm sold on her magical ability to summon tables. It's Nintendo weird.
Eat somewhere.
But look, I wish I had that magical ability.
I'd summon a table fucking now.
Sometimes I'm like, I'd really like to use my computer, but I don't have a table.
I'd like to eat, but I don't want to stand here.
Like even Harry Potter could like summon a broom.
That happened at the state fair. Summoning a table would have been enormously helpful.
Yeah. So Jake, why question
that cotton candy burrito?
Right. What am I saying? Of course, this is the greatest wizard power imaginable. The ability to summon IKEA furniture and not have to build it. That's like amazing.
Well, it's not IKEA if you don't have to build it. It's something else.
And it's not missing like at least one dowel.
Yeah. Can you imagine if she summoned a table missing like a leg?
And she's got to go around and hunt for pieces of the dowel. That's the quest. No heart pieces. You're hunting around for the Allen wrench.
One of the greatest bits in Futurama is a robot that looks like a piece of furniture, pulls up and it's like, here's your cheap Swedish crap. And then as it's like rolling off, it's like Caster like busts off and you see it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. That's awesome. All right. So we are Press B to Cancel. You can find us at pressb.org or pressbtocancel.com. You can find our audio episodes anywhere you listen to the podcast. If you have an app for some reason we're not there, you let me know. I'll chase them down. Of course, you can also find us here on YouTube or on Twitch at Press B to Cancel. And we're live every Friday and our audio's out on Mondays. And until then, this has been a great episode. Thanks for joining us. Have a great week.